Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jade and I am a self-confessed luxury lover. I know that when I started my journey, I didn't really know much about Hermes leathers, and so I had to do a bit of a deep dive into what Hermes leathers there were, which ones were more scratch resistant, water resistant, what was a hardworking leather, what was a delicate leather, all those kinds of questions that I think when you're starting your Hermes journey, you just don't know the answer to. So I thought I would take you through the top 5 leathers that you often see in quota bags, in small leather goods, in accessories, all those types of things, so that you can get a little bit of a better understanding about what the pros and cons are of each leather, so that you can hopefully make a slightly more informed decision when you're putting your wish in with your sales associate. So starting with the most popular leather, Togo. So Togo was introduced by Hermes in 1997, and it was part of the Year of Africa collection that came out at that time and is named after the country Togo. Togo is made from female baby calfskin. It has a smaller, tighter grain than Clemence and often has veining. So with my Birkin 25, I was actually lucky enough to get a bag that doesn't have any obvious veining, which I remember my essay was like, oh my God, you're so lucky. Usually there's a lot of veining on a Togo bag and this one has none. So that was actually quite exciting. In terms of the pros for Togo, it is very durable. The texture is pebbled, it's soft and structured, and it's quite supple. It's resilient, it's scratch resistant, and is often considered a bit of a workhorse leather. So it is water resistant-ish, but it can be a little bit sensitive. So that's something to be mindful of. It's thinner than Clemence, which makes it a lighter leather than Clemence, and it also can be refurbished in the spa well. The cons for Togo are that it is soft and supple, so it can crease and it can lose shape a little bit easier. Not as much as Clemence, but definitely a little bit in the bigger styles. It can be good to have stuffing in it, and the way that you store it would be quite important. Also being conscious of what insert you use with a Togo bag, because there has been reports that sometimes when left in too long, it can create an actual line or bulge in your leather. So you want to be careful with that as well. Moving on to Clemence, which is the, I guess, almost brother to Togo, I would say. It is a male calfskin. It's thicker and its texture and graining is also slightly bigger than Togo. Clemence was actually named for the designer who introduced the leather into Hermes, so that's quite a nice little tidbit. It's a little bit more matte in appearance, and it's definitely a thicker skin than Togo. It is soft and heavy and quite a supple leather, so in terms of larger bags, it can be heavy, especially when you put everything into it. So that's something to be mindful of if you're looking for an everyday bag as well. It's definitely less structured, so as it ages, it loses its shape, it sinks down a little bit. But because it is bull calfskin, it is very hard wearing, it's scratch resistant, it's durable, and it can be refurbished really well at the Hermes spa. So again, it is a good one for a workhorse bag, but it can be prone to losing its shape and also stretching. So there are some pros and their cons depending on what you want to use your bag for, but I think for an everyday bag, Clemence or Togo are great options. Moving into Epsom, which is another one of the more popular leathers. It is calfskin, but it's treated and heat stamped. So what that means is that the grain is actually embossed onto the leather. It was introduced into Hermes in 2004 to replace Chevre. So if you are looking at any vintage bags and you see Chevre, that's what Epsom has replaced. It is a beautiful leather, and it's definitely more of a structured leather and is often used in the Cellier styles. So you'll see it in Birkin Celliers, you'll see it in Kelly Cellier style. The pros for Epsom: it's structured, it's stiff, it holds its shape well. It's also quite scratch resistant, though I would say if you get a big scratch or gouge in it, one of the cons is it's a lot harder to refurb at the spa, which also means that the corners, especially in the Cellier style, often hit different things, and so that can wear at the corners. It's almost a little bit like a Prada Saffiano. Once it's worn, it's kind of worn. I have heard though that The Hermes bar can work some magic with it, but I would just be aware of that. In terms of the other pros, it is lightweight. It's probably one of the more lightweight leathers available. If you also want something that's hard wearing and water resistant and easy to care for. So Epsom is a great one to consider if you're looking for all those things and you don't mind it wearing with use. The next most popular leather I would say is probably Swift. So in 2004, Swift replaced Gulliver. It was also named for Jonathan Swift, who wrote Gulliver's Travels. So it's actually kind of nice that Swift leather replaced Gulliver leather. So I think that's a nice little continuity that Hermes has. It's a soft matte leather. Its pros are that it takes color beautifully. So if you're really looking for a vibrant pink, blue, red, whatever it might be, Swift is the leather for you if color is the most important. It's also a soft and supple leather. It's buttery and has a smooth finish. So in terms of bags, I would say it probably would suit small leather goods or a smaller bag, because its cons are that it is prone to scratching and it does lack structure, so it can become soft and slouchy as you use it, which I think you want to be using these bags, you don't want to be babying them, but it is a lot of money, so it's something to consider when you are putting in a wish and you're thinking about asking for Swift. I'd say smaller bags maybe would be the safer bet for a Swift leather. The fourth leather is Chevre. So there are actually 3 different types of Chevre. And if you have any Hermes bags that aren't in Chevre leather, if you look at the lining of your bag, that is always a Chevre leather. And so that's always, I believe, Chevre Mysore. And again, apologies if I'm pronouncing any of these wrong, which is always the case. But the internal lining of most of the bags are Chevre Mysore. There's also Chevre Chamkila and Chevre Chandra. Chevre is made from goat leather. So in terms of hard wearing leathers, Chevre is definitely one to go for. Its pros are that it is durable, it's lightweight, it holds its shape relatively well, it's a shiny, beautiful leather, it's scratch resistant, it's water resistant. So basically it's a dream leather. And I actually had my Kelly 35, which you'll see in my bags I've sold video, was made from Chevre de Coromandel, which was what Chevre Mysore has now replaced. So it was a stunning workhorse of a bag. I actually think it would be an excellent leather to request. However, now I don't believe Hermes really makes larger bags in that Chevre leather anymore, unfortunately. Most of the Chevre bags are the smaller bags, so you see it a lot on a Mini Kelly in the Cellier style. You'll see it a lot in small leather goods or special orders. So unfortunately, it's not one that comes up often, but if you can request it, I would 100% ask for it because it is a beautiful, beautiful leather. I noticed that in the larger size bag, so you might be able to find one in a secondhand bag. I noticed in larger bags that it does lose its shape because it is a bit softer. So it slouches down, it loses its shape. So that is something to think about if you are thinking of using it as an everyday bag. It also has a lot of variability in texture. So in Chevre, you can actually see the spine down the middle in the texture. So that's also something to think about if you're not big on, I guess, ununiformed texture in your leathers and you want something a little bit more standardized across the board. So those are the main leathers that you will often see and often request. So to go through them again, there's Togo, Clemence, Epsom, Swift, and Chevre. I would say those are the 5 most common leathers that you will see when you are requesting your bag, or even if you're offered. So I have Togo in my bag, which I think is beautiful. It doesn't have any veining. It definitely is a little bit thinner, and because it's a small size, it's quite light even when I put items in it. So the other leathers that I wanted to talk to you about were the Hermes heritage leathers. I'm not going to go into every single leather because I'm not an expert on every single leather, but the two that I have definitely heard more about, and I actually own one of them, are Boxcalf or Box, which is what you might hear it called, and Barenia. So I'll start with Box. Named for Joseph Box, it is one of the oldest leathers that Hermes uses and was actually the material used on the Hermes Kelly bag when Grace Kelly was first pictured holding it. So even before it was called an Hermes Kelly bag. It has a smooth and glossy finish, and I would say it is sensitive to scratches and definitely sensitive to water. So it's probably not a leather to use in a very, very wet climate. It blisters if it gets wet and isn't dried immediately. So people do consider it a very sensitive leather and often will say no or not request a box leather bag. I think it's really beautiful. I don't own one, but it has been kind of floating in the back of my mind for quite a few years now. It takes on the most beautiful glossy patina as it ages. So scratches, though it is sensitive to scratches, can be buffed out and it just gets this beautiful, beautiful shine. I don't know how to describe it. It's just this glossy, glossy finish. It's also a leather that can be really easily refurbished at Hermes. So if you're considering buying a Kelly and you're considering Box, I would actually look at the secondhand market because miracles can be done at the Hermes spa, particularly with Box. As long as the leather isn't cracked, it isn't peeling, Hermes can work wonders. So I wouldn't scratch it from your list. And it may not be an everyday bag, but I do think that it can be used more often than you would believe that it could be, because as it ages, you just buff out those scratches and it becomes shiny, it becomes glossy, it becomes beautiful. So I wouldn't say no if you're offered the opportunity. So the next heritage leather is Barenia. There are two types of Barenia. There's Barenia calfskin, which is the original, and then there's Barenia Faubourg, which was introduced in 2016. And actually that's what my Pico tin is made of, Barenia Faubourg, which I do think is beautiful, and I will do a bit of a deep dive into this bag, into this leather, the wear and tear on it, because I know that there's been some questions about what that is looking like. But I have Barenia Faubourg in my Pico tin. So Barenia calfskin is a smooth leather, and this is the one that you might see where, you know, people drop a glass of water or something like that, or take it out in the rain and then it dries up and it disappears and you wouldn't even know that it was in the rain. Originally it was used for the Hermes saddles, so it has the most magic ability to kind of absorb oils, absorb water, absorb scratches, and just develop this beautiful, beautiful patina. It was first introduced as a handbag in the 1970s and is the only leather that has a blind stamp. So it doesn't have, like you can see on this one, it has the gold stamping. Barenia doesn't have that. So when you see a Barenia bag that is in that kind of gold color, it will have white stitching and it will have a blind stamp. I can't quite show you on the Pico tin because the stamp is on the inside, but Barenia also has the most beautiful, distinctive smell, and collectors of Hermes will know that smell and often smell it. I can't describe it. In fact, the cupboard that I keep my handbags in, often when I open it up, I just get the smell of just the most beautiful leather smell. It's different to the smell of Togo leather, for example. It's very distinctive. I don't know how to describe it. Like a new car. It's hard. Barenia Faubourg, as I said, was introduced in 2016. It's a reinterpretation of Barenia calfskin. It is similar, but it has a pebbled grain, which you can see. It patinas well. It's slightly, I guess it's slightly more scratch resistant because it has the pebbled leather, but I would say it's slightly less water resistant. Not to say that it's not water resistant, but I did accidentally drop some water on it and I noticed that the mark was on here for a little while, but it seems to have absorbed into it now, and I can't even find where that water spot was. So I think it is water resistant, but I probably wouldn't take it out in the rain or knock a glass of water on it in the same way that you might with Barenia calfskin. So that's just something to be mindful of. Not many people ask for heritage leathers, I think because there's, this impression that they're really delicate, and I wouldn't necessarily say that's true. Personally, Barenia is a dream leather, and if I could get a Barenia calfskin, I would love one. I'd particularly, for example, love one in a Constance 18 in Barenia calfskin would be a dream. I think that would be such a great leather for that style of bag, particularly with a clasp where you're always opening it. There would be scratches, but as it ages, it will patina and it will smooth itself out. So I think that could be a great option. I also think it would be a great option in a Kelly or a Birkin as well. So if you're offered one, so lucky. I would take it in a heartbeat, but obviously a leather is to everyone's choice. The exciting thing with Hermes is that there is so much choice. There is so much opportunity to try so many different leathers. I think for a first bag, my personal choices would probably be Togo, Chevre, or Barenia. But I'd also take Epsom. I probably wouldn't go for Swift myself because I don't particularly want that really soft, bright color at this stage, and I probably wouldn't go for Clemence only because it is a little bit heavier, and I find I prefer Togo to Clemence. But it's a hard one. What I'd love to hear from you is what's on your wish list. Have any of these leathers stuck out to you? Was there anything that you love, anything that you disagree with, any leathers that you would want to learn about that I haven't mentioned today? More than happy to deep dive into any other leathers. There are way too many for me to cover in one go. Thank you so much for joining me today for this quick deep dive into some of the more popular Hermes leathers. I'd love for you to subscribe, watch any of my other videos. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I love hearing from you. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will talk to you again soon.